They say the devil wears many faces, but I never thought that one of them would stand behind the pulpit. And not just standing behind the pulpit, that one of them would take my most precious belonging, my life, which happens to be my wife. Stay tuned till the end of this video to see how someone who calls himself a servant of God took my beautiful wife, all under the guise of divinity. My name is John. I married Esther, and for good 5 years, our love was the kind that made the world feel warm. We had everything except maybe a strong connection to the divine. I was the one who suggested it. Esther, I said, tucking her head behind her ear. Maybe we should be in the church more and give God our best. It was a simple, loving suggestion, a spiritual ambition. But what I didn't know was that I was handing my wife over to the wolf. The wolf's name was Pastor David. He was charming, soothing. His sermons were velvet. Esther loved the attention he gave her after service. Small, gentle words. God has a mighty purpose for you, sister, but the enemy is jealous of your light. That was how it started softly. A prophecy here, a special prayer there. Then it escalated. Pastor David began hosting a weekly inner circle section, exclusively for those with high destinies. Esther was selected. This meeting was not held in the men's sanctuary, but in a small windowless office tucked away in the church basement. I remember the first time she missed dinner. For one. Then she said, "He saw things, John," she told me, her eyes wide, a strange feverish light in them. About my family line, things only a true man of God could know. He said there was a spirit of stagnation tied to my marriage. A cold prickle of unease started, but the worst was the public humiliation. One Sunday, during an altar call, Pastor David pointed directly at me. "There is a blockage in this sanctuary. Brother John, your spirit is heavy. Come out of the shadows, man. Let the Lord break the chain of doubt you carry." He didn't know me, and he had never spoken to me one-on-one. Yet, under the gaze of hundreds of people, I was exposed, judged, and dismissed. Then I was forced to kneel while he laid hands on Esther, praying over her as if I was a disease. I should have dragged her out of that building and never looked back. The changes were a slow creeping poison. Esther started talking about spiritual warfare constantly. She would look at me, the man who loved her, the man she did choosing, with an expression that wasn't quite fair, but very close enough. Our intimacy turned cold. She would flinch if I touched her during the night. She would say, "The anointing must be preserved, John." Her voice would be hollow, reciting a line she had clearly been given. Our bedroom became a battlefield of strange spiritual laws. The physical home began to change. Our wedding photos were taken down. "They hold old covenants the enemy can exploit," she declared. All our clothes had to be washed with a special imported holy soap, sold only through the church office. Every corner of the apartment was smeared with different oils, each supposedly, warding off a specific invisible enemy. Then came the fear. She was perpetually terrified of bad luck, of accidents, of my parents, and of me. She confessed her dreams, horrific visions of me as a dark, shadowy figure trying to hold her down while Pastor David, glowing and wise, fought to pull her free. She believed these dreams were a prophetic warning. "The pastor says your bloodline is under a curse," she finally told me. Her voice was shaking, not with sorrow, but with conviction that you are the gate the enemy is using to attack my destiny. He says I must begin a covenant of silence with you, only necessary communication. Me? The enemy? This wasn't my wife speaking. It was an echo, a puppet reciting a script. The request grew darker, more bizarre. First, it was money. All our savings for a special altar to break the curse. He made her liquidate her small retirement fund, claiming those funds were tainted by Babylon. Then the late night vigils. Esther would leave the house at 2 a.m., sleeping out like a ghost. She did return at dawn, exhausted, smelling of oil and sweat. When I once followed her, I saw her and several other women huddled in the parking lot, crying and rocking while Pastor David stood over them, shouting into the night sky. I was spotted by a church usher who simply said, "You are disturbing the atmosphere of power, Brother John." Finally, the terrifying ultimatum. Pastor David told her that to seal her deliverance and ensure her destiny, she had to bring him a sacrifice of her very essence. He demanded her menstrual blood. He needs to use it in a powerful prayer against the generational spirit, she explained, her voice disturbingly calm. She was already packaging it in a small labeled vial. Then one night, she didn't come home until noon. Her clothes were rumpled, her eyes unfocused, but there were a strange maniac happiness about her. "I have been concentrated, John," she whispered. Pastor David said the final step to breaking the curse of the marriage was to enter a spiritual covenant of union with him. It was a holy act. It was the will of God. The words hit me like a physical blow. Spiritual union? This manipulation had gone all the way. He had not just stolen her mind, he had violated her body under the guise of the divinity. She was emotionally and spiritually enslaved, now carrying the ultimate burden of shame and delusion. "Don't touch me," she shrieked when I tried to pull her close. "You are fighting my deliverance. Get away from me, agent of darkness. The pastor said you would fight. He said you were jealous of my calling." I tried to talk to her family. I tried to talk to the church elders. I even printed out articles about cult psychology. No one believed me. They saw a faithful woman finally serving her true calling, and a jealous, unbelieving husband. I hit rock bottom when I walked in on her praying against me. That night, I drove to the church. I slept inside quietly, and then I walked up to the grand pulpit. I ran my hand over the Bible resting there. Then the revelation hit me. He had no power, not real power, no demon, no curse. He was just a man, a predator. He was a master manipulator who had studied human fear, spiritual hunger, and the desperation for a destiny greater than reality. He didn't use power, he used suggestion. He didn't cast out demons, he planted them, the seeds of suspicion, of fear, of division, and finally, sexual compliance. His power was my faith in him, and my wife's need to believe that someone else held the key to her life. It was always just a story. I walked out of that dark church and into the brutal dawn. Then I went home. When I got home, everywhere was empty. Esther was gone. She didn't leave a note. The house was empty of her presence, but heavy with his ghost. 2 months later, I received the summons. She had filed for divorce, signing irreconcilable spiritual differences and demonic oppositions. 6 months after that, I saw the picture in the local newspaper. A society page headline that said, "Pastor David marries a dedicated church servant." There she was, Esther, dressed in white, standing beside the pulpit, clutching the arm of the wolf. She looked radiant, fulfilled, and completely empty. She wasn't my wife anymore. She was a trophy, the final hideous proof of his dominance. Spiritual union was made legal, a twisted consummation of his lie. I live in the ghost of our home now. I am haunted by the fact that I was the one who encouraged her to go deeper. I was the one who trusted the wolf in sheep clothing, and I was the one who, by seeking a blessing, allowed a curse. Esther is delivered. She is married to her destiny, but I was destroyed, and I lost my wife to a man who claimed to speak for God. But all he did was whisper for hell.